Hi everyone. Good morning to you all. In this webinar, me and my colleague Vinodini will be talking about how VMware adapted MCAS and implemented security for critical SaaS applications. So, in today's era, with dominating SaaS applications, security and securing data in cloud and cloud applications becomes one of the most critical requirements for any organization. A cloud access security broker is a solution to this concern, and Microsoft Cloud App Security, or MCAS, resolves this concern by providing data protection, monitoring users, securing configurations, and much more. So, we will be covering how we customized MCAS and its features to meet our use cases and requirements. But before we get into a deep dive session, let me begin with introducing ourselves. So I'm Shreya Shashi, and I've been part of VMware security and resiliency team for past 5 years, and have been majorly working on data loss prevention solutions and cloud app security. Vinodni, could you please provide a brief introduction about yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Shreya. So, hello everyone. Good morning, all. This is Vinodini. I'm working as an information security engineer in VMware. So, I have overall 8 years of experience in this information security field, and my key areas of expertise in this field include endpoint security, data protection, and cloud security. I'm majorly involved in managing and delivering different security products in VMware. So, these are all the topics we'll be covering in today's webinar. I'll be covering basic overview of what is CASB, which is called Cloud Access Security Broker, along with various functionalities it provides. Then I'll be covering why VMware adopted MCAS. Then I'll be covering on basic MCAS architecture and different integration methods it supports to gain visibility to cloud applications. Then Shreya will be covering on policy creation flow within MCAS in detail. Also, she'll be covering on different capabilities that MCAS provides, for example, alerting capabilities, logging capabilities. Then finally, I'll wrap up the session by sharing our success journey with MCAS. Okay, so in this slide, we'll be covering some basics of what is CASB, what are all the various functionalities that CASB provides. As every one of us know, security is the biggest concern when it comes to implementing cloud computing. As enterprises utilizes more cloud services like SaaS, PaaS, and IaaS, this may pose a serious challenge of managing the cloud-related risk as business-sensitive and PII data may be flowing to the cloud. There were too many SaaS applications being used in organization these days. Does all the SaaS apps provide visibility and control options for security operations teams to monitor? Of course not. So to overcome this, we need critical control point architecture for getting visibility into the access and usage of cloud services. And this is provided by a solution called Cloud Access Security Broker, or CASB in short. So as a definition, we can say CASB is a cloud-hosted software which sits between the cloud service consumers and cloud service providers, thereby enforcing security, compliance, and governance policies for all the cloud applications. By this, it provides better control and visibility, which was lacking in most of the cloud apps these days. So, on overall, by implementing one single CASB security platform, right, we can detect threats, manage multiple data streams, and also enforce different security measures. So here are the different functionalities that CASB provides, and it was categorized into four different pillars actually, namely visibility, data security, threat prevention, and compliance. With visibility, we can gain visibility on who's using what cloud services and what way it is being used. With CASB, we can see what sanctioned and unsanctioned cloud apps are accessed by users. And with data security, CASB provides out-of-box capabilities to monitor access to data stored on the cloud. And with threat prevention, it provides various alerting mechanisms to inform SOC team about the threats that are detected within the organization based on users' behavior. And finally, it provides compliance. It provides a lot of controls to ensure data stored outside the organization meets all compliance as per regulatory requirements. So I'll move on to next slide. So in this slide, let's discuss on what are all the key points we have to consider before deciding any CASB solution. The first and foremost important point is what range of coverage it provides. What kind of cloud services or cloud platforms as an organization we are planning to protect? And does the CASB vendor, whoever we are going to choose, does they provide the integration support for all the apps identified? And does the CASB provide better visibility and control? So we have to consider all these points before choosing any CASB solution. Next, wider use case supportability. Each organization has different level of use case needs to combat threats and also to comply with regulatory requirements. So we have to check whether the use case needs as per our requirement is supported by the CASB solution or not, and does it provides various governance actions also. So that also um, is a key point to be considered. Next is ease of use. CASB should provide simple user management console for policy configuration and also for monitoring alerts. It should provide better integration support with SIEM and SOAR tool for security operations team to monitor for any alerts and to take respective actions. So in the previous slide, we have seen what are all the important key points we should consider with respect to CASB product. Now let's see how MCAS covers all these functionalities by providing best security coverage for SaaS apps, and also why we as a VMware IT team have adopted this MCAS product. The first and foremost thing is visibility. It provides us rich visibility to all the cloud apps and also allows us to control the data flowing between the organization and the cloud. Visibility is important because it helps us to keep eye on sanctioned and unsanctioned apps. Next is threat protection. So as a part of threat protection, it provides sophisticated analytics to identify and combat cyber threats, and also it provides the complete visibility to all the cloud services. It helps us to discover, protect, and respond to the threats as well. Next is as a part of data control, it helps us to classify and prevent sensitive information leak. By this, we can protect the sensitive information wherever it resides in the cloud. Next is compliance part. It helps us to assess the cloud apps to check if it meets the relevant compliance requirements. And MCAS specifically provides out-of-box visibility for various compliance like PCI, HIPAA, PII, etc. So MCAS provides integration with the three different integration based on three different deployment modes, and namely API-based, reverse proxy, and log-based. So we'll be covering these methods in detail in coming slides. But with this method, right, it provides better coverage for all the cloud apps used in the organization. Also, it provides centralized management for all the cloud apps and also enables us to view user data and user activities within the single interface. So with all the points we have discussed in this slide, right, it is evident that all the functionalities and key points we have discussed in previous slides with respect to CASB is covered by MCAS. So here is the architecture of MCAS as provided by Microsoft. As I mentioned as a definition for CASB, MCAS sits between the organization and cloud apps. MCAS enables visibility to the cloud apps by using three different integration methods. First is App Connector. So App Connector leverages APIs of cloud app providers actually. So by this method, we can enable greater visibility and control over the apps users connect to. And this is easy to integrate method as well. Next is Cloud Discovery. And this one uses traffic logs, for example, firewall logs, to dynamically discover the cloud apps used by the organization. And for once the apps are discovered, right, we can actually see the traffic volume across the internal IP addresses and users accessing it on an ongoing basis. And for the discovered apps, we can also do the risk assessment based on the information collected by the MCAS And also we can identify whether we have identify the services, whether we need to sanction or unsanction or block the apps. Next method is conditional access app control method. With this method, we can get real-time visibility and control over access and activities within the cloud apps. So once the app is connected using one or more of these methods, right, we can get instance out-of-box protection capabilities for these apps. Additionally, we can also gain the deep visibility into the users and machines activities within the cloud apps. And also we can gain control over data shared by the app. And also we can apply some detection policies with the governance actions to mitigate any risky activities or sensitive data being shared by the app. So in next two slides, right, I'll be covering more in depth the details about two of the integration methods that was discussed in the architecture part, namely app connector and conditional access app control method. So first, let's discuss on app connector method. So MCAS leverages the APIs provided by the cloud provider in this method. So with this method, as I mentioned earlier, it provides greater visibility and control for all the cloud apps users connect to. It also gives us access to the information directly from the cloud apps for cloud app security analysis. So one of the important steps we have to consider before using this method is we have to make sure cloud app administrator authorizes the cloud app security to access access this app. So once it is done right, MCAS can query for the app activity logs. It can scan data, user accounts, and cloud content. We can also enforce policies, detect threats, and also provide governance actions for resolving any issues. So depending on the app to which we are connecting, right, API connection enables us to get account information, including visibility into users, groups, privileged accounts, etc. And also we can get visibility into user activities, admin activities, and login activities. We can also take governance actions, as I mentioned earlier, and also we can quarantine files in case of any violation. So there is a link mentioned at the bottom of this slide, which will show the abilities that are supported by the different cloud apps, which are integrated using this app connector method. So next is conditional access app control method. So this uses reverse proxy architecture and integrates with identity provider to provide real-time visibility and control over user access and activities performed within the cloud environment. So one of the important prerequisite we have to consider here is the apps, whichever we are going to integrate, right? It should support the authentication protocols like SAML 2.0 or OpenID Connect if we are planning to use Azure AD. So cloud apps which we are planning to integrate should also support single sign-on authentication as well. So here is the diagram which explains how we as a VMware IT team leveraged VMware Workspace ONE access to deploy conditional access policies to different cloud apps. So Workspace ONE access is formally called as a VMware Identity Manager. It provides multi-factor authentication, conditional access, and single sign-on to SaaS apps, web-based apps, and mobile native apps. So let's discuss on the flow now. So the cloud apps which we are planning to integrate, right? It should be integrated with Workspace ONE for single sign-on, and with that, right, we can generate the SSO URL and the SAML cert from the CASB console. And the same SSO URL and SAML certificate has to be uploaded in the identity provider, uh, which will fulfill the integration part. And once that is done, right, we can configure the conditional access and session policies to the cloud apps by using MCAS, which will elevate the security controls and security posture. So once the integration is complete, all the users request and response will go through the MCAS rather than directly with the application. This will provide additional layer of security by allowing the MCAS administrator to create policies to limit user actions based on the user session. MCAS and Workspace ONE together, right, it will allow us to take control of the cloud environment and respond to the security threats in real time, because all the login activities, whether the users are accessing from the managed or from unmanaged devices, will be passing via MCAS as we have integrated via Workspace ONE Access. So here are the benefits, a list of benefits of using conditional access app control method. First is prevent data exfiltration. So with this, we can block download, cut, copy, or print of any sensitive documents. We can create policies to do that to do for that purpose. Then protect on download. So instead of blocking download, we can enforce documents to be labeled and protected by leveraging Azure information protection. Next is prevent upload of unlabeled files. We can ensure unlabeled files with sensitive content, right? We can block them from being uploaded. So by this, we can ensure that all the files that is uploaded in the cloud are properly classified and labeled. Next is monitor user session for compliance. So we can monitor for any specific users. We can monitor their sign in activities to any specific apps, and their logged in sessions can be monitored. So everything can be monitored based on the use cases what we have. Then block access. We can granularly block access for any specific apps and users based on the use cases as per our needs. And block custom activities. So for this, right, we can monitor for any sensitive contents that is being shared in apps. For example, if any sensitive content is being shared in Slack or Microsoft Teams, we can configure policies to monitor for the content and block them in real time. So here are the list of app categories, sample app categories that is supported by the two integration methods, namely API connector and conditional access method. So for the API connector, it supports collaborative apps, IaaS security posture, finance, open source development tools, HR apps, and even CRM apps. So namely, I'll mention few examples here. Office 365 apps, WebEx, Workday, AWS, Azure, Concur, Salesforce. So these are supported here. And with conditional access method, right? As I mentioned earlier, whichever apps supports the authentication protocols like SAML 2.0 or OpenID Connect is supported in this method. And some of the examples include Slack, ServiceNow, LinkedIn Learning. So now I'll hand over to Shreya to go over the features, policy creation in MCAS, and much more capabilities available with MCAS.
Sure. Thank you, Vinodini. Yeah, so as Vinodini covered in previous slides, that MCAS or Microsoft Cloud App Security is a CASB solution, and I will be covering the features supported by it. Let me go through them one by one here. So covering data loss prevention. So these are the softwares that detect potential data breaches, data exfiltration transmissions, and prevent them by monitoring, detecting, and blocking sensitive data while in use, in motion, and at rest. It also, sometimes help us monitor cyber threats based on different threat intelligence available, prevents insider threats like data loss by users. Could be it can be an intentional one or an unintentional one, right? And the next one is it helps us comply with different governance and compliance regulations. We will be covering this in details in the coming slides. So the next is data classification, which is the process of analyzing structured or unstructured data and organizing it in categories based on file type, file contents, and other metadata. Uh, this helps an organization answer a very important question about their data that inform them how they should mitigate a risk and manage their data governance policies. It can provide information on where the data is being stored or what kind of sensitive information is available or which type or category of data users create most often, right? The data is classified in different ways and we will be discussing it in the coming slides. Then we have another feature that is user activity. MCAS allows us to monitor any user activity that has taken place within the application and the data stored within it. It also provides an entire history of the user and any activity that has been taken place. Right. The next is sharing control. This provides us option to monitor any sharing activities within any SaaS applications, and also allows to put controls on these shares. I can take an example here, like me going ahead and sharing any file with another user within the organization or outside the organization. So I can with the use of MCAS, I can go ahead and remove these users or make sure that these files are limited or restricted to be shared with a certain crowd itself. Um, then we have administrative activities, where MCAS allows us to monitor any admin level changes, any configuration changes, or any access privileges that could be only changed by an admin, right? And then next is login activity. This gives us an option of identifying risky logins from suspicious IPs, uh, detect geologically based anomalies. Um, for example, a user logging in from India right now and logging in again from an IP range from somewhere in EMEA or NASA region would be physically suspicious. So these sort of examples actually or use cases come as a part of geological based anomalies. And then the next is like multiple login failures by the same user account, right? Um, and the last feature is access control, which has two sections in it. One where it talks about access control within MCAS itself, where how a user can have access to MCAS as an application, and it provides an option of very granular level of access that we can call as role-based access control, where a security analyst can have only access to the alerts or incidents that are in place, while an admin will have privileges to go ahead and create those policies to trigger the alerts, right? Yeah. So let me let me just quickly go over to the next part of it. That is, all these features are implemented by defining policies which are distributed in different sections. Majorly, it is distributed as file policies, activity policies, anomaly detection, and discovery policies, right? So let me go through this one by one. In case of file policies, we can create these policies based on file name, the content of the file, file extensions, and file types. It also provides us the option to customize the data patterns or pattern matches that we are looking for. We will be discussing this in a few minutes. And then we have activity policies that are created to have control over the user activities, where various policies can be created, as we discussed earlier, about failed logins and anonymous sharing links or any link created for a certain file or data. Then we have discovery policies in place. App discovery policy is a feature enabled when firewall logs are forwarded to identify all the SaaS applications being used in an organization and monitor or control their usage. For example, any discovered collaboration apps can be controlled based on the user count and the data usage. The same goes for any other application types as well, like cloud storage applications, HR applications, or online meeting applications. It also provides an options to block or allow the usage of these applications within the environment. Um, then we have anomaly detection based policies. These are created to monitor any suspicious or unusual activities of users. Uh, we can take few examples, like it can help us to identify any suspicious uploads or downloads from risky IPs. It will be covering unusual geological anomalies, unusual logins from multiple locations or different zones, then malicious uploads or a potential ransomware activity, etc. Right? Um, so post this, the next feature that we can discuss is data classification. This is one of the major benefits of MCAS. By default, MCAS has four classifications for commercial or corporate data, right? That is public, sensitive, confidential, private, and an add-on is available as a custom classification as well. So, public data is the least sensitive data used by the company and would cause the least harm if disclosed. This could be anything from data used for marketing to the number of employees in the company. And then we have sensitive data that is to have the most limited access and requires a high degree of integrity. This is typically the data that will do the most damage to the organization should it be disclosed. And then we have confidential data that might be less restrictive within the company, but might cause damage if disclosed. And then we have the private data that might not do a lot of damage, but is supposed to be kept private for other governance or compliance reasons. For example, human resource data is an example of such data type. The last one is the custom data. These data classification is based on the user's requirement. This can be classified and can be created via AIP based on combinations of keywords or pattern matches that we are looking for, and can be auto implemented to all the files or within the organization. And it also provides an option for users to override these setup as well in case if it is required, right? Uh, the next section would be data compliance. Using MCAS, one can set policies to adhere to various compliance and regulations like HIPAA, GDPR, PCI DSS, etc. Data compliance is the practice of ensuring that sensitive data is organized and managed in such a way as to enable organizations to meet enterprise business rules along with legal and governmental regulations. So I will be giving an overview of all these. Um, so in case of PCI DSS or Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard, any company that deal with customers' payment card information must comply with this. This defines the rules concerning how organizations handle, transmit, store, and secure customers' credit, debit, and cash card sensitive data. Right. In case of PII, personally identifiable information is commonly defined as any data that could potentially identify a specific individual and can be either sensitive or non-sensitive. Um, when we say sensitive PII, it is the information which, when disclosed to an unauthorized entity, could result in harm to the data subject, right? Then we have HIPAA. These regulations are supposed to be complied when a company is actually handling electronic health records of a patient and are supposed to follow the protected health information. Um, then we have GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation, which is a legal framework developed by the European Union that creates guidelines for the way companies that do business with the European Union member states and can collect and process the personal information of people living in the EU region. It aims to regulate the processing of personal data of EU citizens. One fun fact about GDPR is that EU data protection authorities can fine an organization that don't comply with GDPR, and this fine ranges from up to 10 million euros or 2% of its annual revenue, right? Then we have intellectual property that refers to creations of mind such as inventions, literary, artistic works, images, symbols, designs used in commerce. This is protected in law by patents, copyrights, and trademarks, etc. Um, so all of these features are actually combined and can be controlled by creating multiple policies. Um, so let me just go to the next slide. Yeah. So now in this slide, we will cover the options that we can utilize when it comes to policy creations and customizing it as per our requirement. Now, there are two controls in place when it comes to MCAS. One where predefined templates are available and can be modified to use with some filters available, such as users or groups to be monitored. As mentioned earlier about the file types and exceptions, application that needs to be monitored, and any activity types that we want to look at as well. All these templates are distributed in multiple categories based on the functions they provide, such as data loss prevention or DLP, threat protection, anomaly detection, access policies, and activity policies. Uh, when it comes to the custom policy creations, admins have a choice to define the policy based on the requirements and apply filters accordingly. Let us consider an example of bulk download of data by a user. This could look like a simple use case to implement, but let me explain how applying these filters can make this a critical use case for any organization. Now, let's say we want to monitor users who are about to be released from the company and they have access to PCI content. And we want to keep control over such data and its movement. So every time there is a download or upload of bulk data of PCI content by such user, MCAS is able to notify admins and analysts of any such activities, right? While we are going through the policy creations, I'll just go through the exact steps that needs to be followed. So every time we go and create a policy, we need to define the name, or provide a description to the policy. We have an option to provide the severity or choose the severity level, could be high, medium, or low, based on the policy type that we are creating, and then define the category as we explained from DLP access policies or activity policy. We can do that. The next step would be to provide filters that would be selecting applications that we would like to monitor, given selecting the access levels to these data or files, which is defined into 4 categories as public, internal, external, and public internet. And then the next part is the last modified. We can add the last modification date as well, and there are many other filters available as well, such as if there is a specific user that we would like to apply this to, or if there is a specific file that we would like this policy to be applied upon, right? Post that, the next step would be to choose a content to be matched from. This is specific to a category DLP, the data loss prevention. This data classification services would come in picture only for this category. We will be covering this section in the coming slides in details on how we can go ahead and what type of options we have available when it comes to data classification services, and how we can go ahead and customize the contents or patterns that we would like to match, right? Then we can go ahead and choose if we want to create any alerts for these incidents, or should we just continue making it as event for monitoring purposes. We can also define the frequency of these alerts, the way we want it to come, and whom this alert needs to be notified to. There is another options for auto remediation of these alerts, that would be also known as governance actions. And this is an optional choice. This is not mandatory. So I'll be covering the same in details in the next slide. So post this, let me just get into how we can go ahead and customize different sort of data patterns that are available, right? So when it comes to policies, when it comes to DLP policies, the policies that are known as file policies, and MCAS provides a huge list of inbuilt pattern matches. And if need be, these patterns can be created as per the requirement via user interface or using the PowerShell command line for security and compliance. So these objects are defined as data classification services that provides us options to include different patterns to be matched within a policy. It could be a sensitive information type, which is a combination of multiple regular expressions and keywords. And then we have an option of adding fingerprint of a file, exact data match, or trainable classifiers. So here, when we say fingerprint of a file will be uploaded and it will create an incident if the conditions of access level, that is internal, external, or public, matches along with the same file with same hash value, right? In case of exact data pattern match, a file is uploaded, and if the same content within the file is matched, the incident is created. While in case of trainable classifiers, these are predefined categories like source codes, profanity, targeted harassments, and many more. And this is a list of keywords that has been tagged as these predefined categories. This can be customized by uploading a set of keywords and defining a unique category for those as well, and can be used to match within a file while shared or uploaded, right? We will be talking about the sensitive information type in details in the next slide. So yeah, yeah. So sensitive information type can generally be divided, can be customized in 2 ways. That is through user interface and Power CLI or PowerShell script. So When we talk about customized patterns, sensitive information types are what we focus on. These are the combinations of regular expressions, keywords combined in an XML template. Now, there are many predefined sensitive information types in MCAS, but they can be modified as per our use case definition. Any predefined sensitive information types can be exported and modified. Regular expressions, keywords, sets, dictionaries, all are considered as attributes, and we can add these with a unique name and replace it with the existing ones. Now, now when should we choose whether to use a UI or to go via PowerShell scripts, right? So these templates can be created in two ways as we discussed. So when there is a simple combination of regular expressions and keywords with basic and or conditions and such operations, UI can be used. While in case of a new sensitive information type with complex conditions and exceptions, where we can use command line, we can create an XML template based on the use case requirement and define many keyword groups, regular expressions, and combine them with different operators like and, or, and not, or not, and not, etc. uh, so each of these templates can have multiple entities, one for every sensitive type. These entities are combinations of a mandatory attribute followed by multiple secondary attributes, and both of these can be a regular expression or a keyword combination. Um, so for example, if we are looking for any PII information, right, in that case, we will need patterns, right? The PII data, another PII data will contain, multiple patterns here. That would be a set of keywords and then a regular expression pattern that would define that PII data. And then maybe another set of regular expression that would define a validation date within that particular PII information, right? All these three will be part of something called as an entity within the XML template, and that would be created for one of the sensitive information types. Um, we can also include multiple entities in one XML templates to have like one file with multiple rules in place, right? This can be included in the policies to create any customized requirements. Um, yeah, post this will be covering the alert notification. So once the policies are enabled, every time there is a match with the conditions, these events can either be just logged or email notifications can be created. We can define the frequency of such alerts per policy, and the notifications provided by these incidents contain details like application name, file name, user email ID, and policy name, and also provides a direct link to the MCAS portal. Um, then the next section that we have is the governance action, also known as the auto remediation actions available within the portal. So it gives us a choice to select, based on the incident, whether we want to send a policy match digest to a certain specific user or notify the user who is the owner of the file that they have violated a specific policy. We can directly go ahead and make a file private in case if it has been shared and we know that it is critical. There is a choice of removing external users within the collaborators list. Um, it provides an option of inheriting parent permissions for a specific file within a folder. On a really restricted side, there is an option of quarantining files as well. It could be user based quarantine, where the file would be stored within the user account itself, or another section would be admin quarantine, whether these files would be moved to a different quarantine instance itself. The file can be moved to trash. We can remove collaborators while when we say collaborators, these are the people whom the file has been shared with. And the last one is to apply different classification labels that we had discussed in the previous slides. Um, the next section is the logging capabilities. So now, since we have covered how the policies are created and what sort of actions we can take, we need to ensure, like, we have these logs in place for further analysis. So there are three ways to do this. One is directly using MCAS API provided by via MCAS portal itself, which provides the logging format in CEF format, and it is not very readable when it comes to analysis, right? The next is using Azure Sentinel, but this is but this is only for people who are utilizing this feature. And then we have the last one where we can directly use SIEM, SIEM integration via Microsoft Security Graph API. And this is a much more robust way to go for integrating the logging capabilities, right? So let me just show you a sample of how the log would look like while using it using the Security Graph API. So it would provide us the details like the alert ID of the file that can be used for any other automated actions to be taken through any SOAR platform if required. It gives us the category of which the alert is coming from. In this scenario, the sample that we have taken is a DLP or data loss prevention example. It gives us the data where it explains which policy got matched, what was the file name that it was shared with. It gives the URL of the alert and the policy that it has matched with. So all those details are available within these logs. Um, yeah. Um, Post this, I'll just cover the different log types that are available. That is application audit logs. This defines audit logs for all other SaaS applications or their file activity logs or user activity logs within those applications. The next is MCAS audit logs. That is MCAS activity and admin logs. The next is user activity logs, which is used for users' behavioral analysis. And the second last one is alert logs. That is the incident logs that is used to go ahead and analyze the incidents. And the last one is governance logs. So any governance action that has taken place is recorded here, right? So yeah, at this point we have covered the configuration, customization, and policy setup for implementing MCAS. Now, I would like to hand it over to Vinodini to cover our journey in implementing MCAS.
Yeah, thank you, Shreya. So yeah, I'll be covering how we have successfully implemented MCAS in VMware. So this is our MCAS journey from start to finish. So in regards to integration strategy and plan. So as we all know, planning is a key to success. So we have to set a time scale for the integration with the different cloud applications based on the priority set for these apps. So we have to consider if there is any time constraints for implementing these integration. Also, we have to check whether there have been any incidents detected in past for any of the cloud apps. If so, do we need to prioritize integration for those apps on priority? So all these has to be considered with in terms of time scale. Then with technology, if we have any existing CASB product, right, we have to make sure we are smoothly transitioning from existing product to MCAS. Then on the prerequisites, we have to check whether all the identified SaaS apps are supported for MCAS integration and which methods we are going to use. And if we are going to use the conditional app access method, we have to make sure that particular app supports the SAML 2.0 authentication or OpenID Connect. So these has to be considered as a part of prerequisite. Then, as I mentioned in time scale, the main point is we have to identify what are all the apps we are going to integrate as a part of this project, and we have to categorize which are all the risky apps and which are all the low critical ones, so that we can properly follow the integration timeline. Next is production readiness. So we have to check whether the policies configured during the POC phase will fit for the purpose for production as well. We have to fine tune the policies, for example, data patterns as explained by Shreya, right? We have to check whether false positives are triggered. If so, we can fine tune the data patterns or customize the data patterns. Next, we have to integrate the cloud apps with the workspace one if we are planning to use the conditional app access method. Then another important point is we have to make sure logs are forwarded to SIEM. So there are three different methods we can utilize to forward the logs to SIEM. As Shreya mentioned, one of the best method is Microsoft Graph API method, because with that we'll get complete visibility on the alerts and different fields, properly parsed fields in SIEM tool. Next is role-based access. So we have to identify who are all going to access the user interface console and what level of access they need. Based on that, we have to create different types of roles and assign users to those roles respectively. Another key point is training our people. So the main team who has to be trained for this purpose is security operations team, and we have to train them during right time, and it shouldn't be too early or shouldn't be too late as well. And we have to make sure security operations team and incident response team are comfortable in using the MCAS user interface console. Are they comfortable to use alerts page, and whether they have any other questions? If so, we have to clarify those. So these has to be considered in advance. So how do we confirm if everything is working fine? So we have to check whether the apps integrated using app connector method or conditional access method is working as expected. Whether the policy is configured for using these methods or triggering alerts properly or not. So these has to be verified in advance. Next, to check if SOC and incident response team is trained and on how to use the console user interface. Are they familiar with how alerts look like in console, and are they familiar with what are all the fields that is being captured by the MCAS, and how do they get the evidence file in the console? So for all these, they should be trained properly. Main thing is they should be comfortable in using this product, because they are the ones who will be monitoring for the alerts, investigating the incident, and taking actions accordingly. Next is we have to make sure the logs are properly forwarded to SIM, mainly the alerts, and we have to make sure all the fields are properly passed, and we have to validate those logs with SOC and incident response team as they'll be taking actions on those alerts. So as a summary, planning, communication, and training are key to successfully implementing this MCAS in VMware. So MCAS product have significantly improved our security posture because we got visibility to all the cloud applications that is used by the users in organization. Next, we have integrated with the different third-party cloud applications because MCAS provides different integration methods, namely app connector and conditional access method. And another thing is it provides better visibility and protection to risky SaaS application. And another important thing is we have leveraged VMware Workspace ONE access to enable real-time protection for different cloud applications. Hopefully that helped you guys to understand a little bit about how we use MCAS and how we have utilized its various capabilities. Now you can post your questions in Q&A panel if you have any.